Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and I'd like to welcome you to the Practical Stoic Podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. If you'd like to learn more about Stoicism, or if you want some added inspiration in your day, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com. If you're interested in transforming your life with Stoic principles, then I also offer one-on-one coaching. To book your first free session, just head to risetothegoodlife.com/coaching and follow the links. But for now, enjoy this episode. Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast. So today is the Wednesday podcast, and the question for this week is, how were you introduced to Stoicism? And we had some really great answers for today, so I'll get straight into it. Dan said, I wish I could remember who gave me Seneca's Letters from a Stoic some 20 plus years ago, because I'd like to thank that person. When I went to Army basic training in 2000, we were allowed to bring one book, and it had to be a religious book. Since I was an atheist, I didn't have a religious book to bring. Instead, I brought Seneca's Letters from a Stoic, as translated by Robin Campbell. Fortunately, my drill sergeants didn't begrudge my book, even though it was philosophy. Seneca was invaluable to remind myself that the adversity experienced in army training was nothing unusual or unique. Whenever I felt like things were difficult, I would look around at our company formation and remind myself that tens of thousands of American soldiers had undergone and endured the same training I was going through, and tens of thousands more would follow me. Seneca reminded me to keep my mind on the present and not to worry about what might come the following day. When I found myself missing life's luxuries, like showering, which we weren't permitted to indulge in until the end of week 2, Seneca was useful then as well. After army training, whenever life's trials became overwhelming, I would return to Seneca, and he would help me bring things back into perspective so I could drive on. It wasn't until 2014 that I read A Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine, and Stoicism and the Art of Happiness by Donald Robertson. More recently, Massimo Pigliucci's book, How to be a Stoic. These books really helped me to begin to understand the framework of Stoicism as a whole, and informed my readings of the translations of the original source materials that I've read. I still have a long way to go, but I'm grateful for those wiser than me that have been pointing me in the right direction. So Dan, thank you so much for that answer. It seems like you've been really trying to live the principles of Stoicism, and especially back when you were doing military training. You know, it's always great to hear from people who have been using Stoicism in a practical and useful way. Next we have Leo, who said, about 12 years ago I was reading 50 self-help classics, and one of those was Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I read the 2-page summary and was intrigued. This then led me to the internet, where through a process of discovery, I came across Stoicism and the associated forums. I credit the internet with the rediscovery of such a powerful philosophy, where like-minded people from all around the world have embraced and spread the word. I call it a digital renaissance. So thanks for that answer, Leo. I agree that it's absolutely fantastic how easily we can all share ideas through the internet. And I'm really grateful for all of you who are out there sharing this podcast or even discussing Stoicism in our Facebook group. So we have a few shorter answers to go through, so I'll start with Jacob, who said, I learned about Stoicism first from the Philosophize This podcast. Stephen West goes through and discusses philosophy from the beginnings to present day. I was interested after the Stoicism one, but then he did an interview with Massimo Pigliucci. After that, I was hooked. And next we had an answer from Milo. She said, when you write the word smart on any research motor for podcasts, you'll find the You Are Not So Smart podcast. Milo says that in the 125th episode, the host opens with Stoicism, and she said that her mind was blown when she listened to it. Next we have Natasha, and she said, for Christmas 2016, I bought the book Happy by Darren Brown, and was introduced to Stoicism. She said it was like a bulb lit in my head as I'd found the practical philosophy I'd been searching for over many years. I had practiced Buddhism for over a decade on and off, but I just couldn't adjust to the mystical aspects. Stoicism fits brilliantly. Thanks for that, Natasha. I think that a lot of people have found Stoicism to be similar to Buddhism, and it seems like it would have been a really smooth transition. Next, Will said, I was watching Gotham and Lucius Fox gave the young Bruce Wayne a cryptic clue about where to find the key and said, your father was a true Stoic. When Bruce Wayne was wondering what he meant, he was in his study and spotted Marcus Aurelius's Meditations book on his bookshelf. So he opened it and that's where the key was. So I googled Stoicism and went from there. So thanks for that, Will. That is such an awesome and random way to be introduced to Stoicism. I absolutely love it. So now we have Jared, who said he was introduced to Stoicism in high school philosophy class. He said it was 95% non-resonant, self-important gibberish, and 5% Marcus Aurelius. It sounded familiar, simple, and right to me. Ben said that on a website called Chivalry Now, many members recommended the Meditations as a guide for self-improvement. I fell in love with it and have studied it ever since. Next, Chris said a fantastic ethics and moral reasoning class in college introduced me to Stoicism. We covered utilitarianism first, then Immanuel Kant and deontology, then finally virtue ethics, which is where I was introduced to Aristotle and lastly Seneca. The rest is history. Moving on, we have Anne, who said that she learned Stoicism through a friend. She said, I didn't know Stoicism was the word for it when I told him I was practicing the philosophy of accepting life's challenges as a normal thing. Next we have Paul, who said, I was going through some growing pains in my line of work. I kept being reactive and negative to all the mishaps that occurred throughout the days I was setting into my role. My coworker said something about being more stoic. His examples and explanations were not as detailed or meaningful at the time. However, I'm grateful he mentioned it because as I discovered Stoicism, it's been completely life-changing. Since then, I've been very interested in continuing on a life-changing journey through your podcast and self-reflection. I've only started this journey, but the small changes I've applied have already improved my well-being and the way I approach things as I navigate through the world. So Paul, thank you so much for that answer. I can really tell that you've got so many life-changing experiences ahead of you as you learn and grow through Stoicism. So the next few answers are similar because they all have to do with the ketogenic diet. One of the amazing people who I'm coaching right now mentioned to me that there is some kind of link between the ketogenic diet and Stoicism, and she noted that many people in the community on Facebook called Ketovangelist United have been sharing this podcast and discussing Stoicism. So I'll do a big shout out to everybody in that group. Thank you so much for listening and thanks for practicing Stoicism. I've recently been doing the ketogenic diet myself and I've seen amazing results, so keep spreading the word. So anyway, Laura said there seems to be some sort of interestingly random connection between the ketogenic community and Stoicism. I'm a part of this amazing group known as Ketovangelist United, and months ago I asked people on Facebook for inspirational book and podcast recommendations. The Daily Stoic book and the Practical Stoic Podcast came up a number of times from many people. They were right. They are so inspirational. So thanks for that answer, Laura. I agree that Ryan Holiday has some really incredible insights, and I'm really grateful that you've been using this podcast for your Stoic journey. Next, Alana said, I got introduced the same way as Laura, via some great people at Ketovangelist United. It's been a life-changing journey for me. And a similar answer from George, who said he was introduced by Ketovangelists United. And finally we had an answer from Griffin, who said, Tim Ferriss introduced the idea, then I found tons of podcasts to throw in my ears. And as I got into a ketogenic diet, the Stoic mindset seemed to fit. I am now in the middle of my first Stoic text, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's quite a journey and I'm always improving and learning. So thanks to everyone who has sent their answers in, whether that's through email or over the Facebook group. I really appreciate the time that you've all put into this, and I'm so grateful that through different ways you've all come to know about Stoicism. And before I end this episode, for those of you who don't know, Friday is a very special episode. So you'll want to make sure that you set your phone to auto-download and get ready for this episode, because it's our very first interview on this podcast. And the person who I'm interviewing is none other than the incredible Ryan Holiday. So I hope you're all ready for that, because Ryan really delivered some extreme value in the interview, and I'm so excited for you all to hear it. So I'll talk to you then, but until then, I hope that this episode has helped you on your rise to the good life. Ciao. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I hope that you've gotten a lot of value out of it, and I hope that it helps you to live a better life. If you have enjoyed the podcast, then don't forget to subscribe so that you'll be the first to know when there are new episodes. If you really love the podcast, then I would appreciate a positive review, whether that's on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever else you listen. Don't forget that if you're interested in one-on-one Stoic coaching, then you can head to risetothegoodlife.com/coaching to book your first free session today.